Prima Nnamdi Kanu na.
Is very much aware of what he's doing. He has given birth to what you are seeing taking place in the southeast at the moment. He is more aware of it, and even the legal tussle that is ongoing. If you check, it is him and his legal team that are frustrating the process. What we are saying as people, we are not against anybody, but we are telling the country that nobody should put Nigeria under any political pressure against anybody, especially criminals and terrorists. Whether Nnamdi Kanu or anybody, that is what we are saying.
We are also seeing the fact that a couple of days ago he was denied bail or denied access to go outside the country for his health issues. The NMS say he should be in Nigeria here. What do you have to say about that?
You see, myself and you are not in the best place to know whether his health condition would warrant him to go outside or here. The people who have the authority as far as Nigeria is concerned, they have confirmed and they have come out with their report that he is good enough to stand trial and to face anything that is charged with in this country. And like I've said before, with looking at the statistics, we said nobody under any political pressure should put this country or intimidating this country into corner by coming up with political solution to releasing Nnamdi Kanu. The law should be allowed to take his course against any other person, irrespective of where he come from, irrespective of which color he is, irrespective of
What's the name of this bridge? That's what I want to check. Now come back to your bed.
Whether black, yellow,
from the north, from
the south,
we must be allowed to speak freely. We must be allowed to face the world.
My people, the kind of tension that hit Abuja today, eh? Even the clouds felt it. The whole city practically stood still as protesters flooded the streets, shouting one thing over and over again. Free Nnamdi Kanu. From the city center to the outskirts, the chant echoed everywhere. You could literally feel how emotional people were about this matter. Before I go too far, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these real-time updates as they happen. So here's what happened. Early this morning, as offices were opening, people began noticing small groups gathering near major junctions, by the Federal Secretariat, near the Unity Fountain, and even close to the National Assembly Gate. Within minutes, those small groups turned into hundreds. They were carrying banners, flags, and even wearing t-shirts with bold letters saying, "Release him now." They started singing songs that reminded many of the 2021 protests, when Kanu's first arrest caused tension across the southeast. Now you might ask, why today? What triggered this new wave of protest in Abuja? The answer is frustration. Many of these protesters say they are tired of what they call delay tactics in the court. They believe Nnamdi Kanu has spent too long in detention without proper justice. And for them, this protest is not just about one man, it's about a voice they feel has been silenced for too long. Security presence was heavy. Everywhere you turned, there were police trucks, barricades, and armed personnel. But even that didn't stop the crowd. They kept chanting, raising placards, and waving Biafra flags despite the government's warning that IPOB remains a banned group. Some protesters said they came all the way from Enugu and Imo to join this Abuja rally because they wanted the world to see that their demand isn't dying down. Now, what's interesting is that as the protest grew, Abuja residents who were not even part of it started filming and posting videos online. You could see people running, police trying to control crowds, and smoke in the air. Not from violence, but from the tear gas that was fired to scatter the gathering. Several eyewitnesses say the protesters didn't come to fight, they only wanted to make their point heard. But as tension rose, things got chaotic. Traffic was blocked, commuters stranded, and shops in some areas quickly closed. Many say what makes this situation emotional is that it reminds Nigerians how divided opinions about Nnamdi Kanu really are. For some, he's a hero, a man who speaks for the Southeast and calls out injustice. But for others, he's seen as a figure whose methods have caused instability and fear. The protest today reopened all those feelings. The old wounds from the 1967 Biafra War, the debates about unity, marginalization, and the role of government in handling dissent. And here's the part that really got people talking. Even after police used tear gas and tried to disperse the crowd, more protesters were regrouped later in the day. They gathered again in smaller clusters around Garki and Woos, waving flags and shouting, "We want justice, not excuses." The persistence shocked many. You could tell that these people were determined to be heard no matter what. Remember to hit the like button if you're still watching, and subscribe now so you'll be the first to get part 2 of this gist, because trust me, this issue is far from over. Many analysts are already reacting. Some are warning that if the government doesn't find a peaceful way to address this renewed agitation, it could spread again to other parts of the country, especially the Southeast. Others believe the protest is a clear sign that Nigerians are tired of long legal battles and want more transparency in how high-profile cases are handled. A few civil rights groups also weighed in, urging both the government and the protesters to stay calm and avoid violence. They said the right to peaceful protest is part of democracy, but it must be done responsibly. Still, many ordinary Nigerians feel that something deeper is happening, that this renewed push to free Nnamdi Kanu reflects the frustration of young people who feel ignored, unemployed, and voiceless in the national system. Some people were seen crying at the protest ground, older women saying they lost sons during the Biafra conflict, young men shouting that they just want fairness, and even ordinary Abuja residents who said they didn't support IPOB but couldn't ignore the pain on people's faces. It was a very emotional scene, and yet, as powerful as the protest was, by evening police had cleared most of the roads, but the message had already spread, both in Abuja and across social media. Hashtags like Free Nnamdi Kanu and Justice for Kanu were trending. Videos of the crowd chanting at Eagle Square and Unity Fountain were everywhere. It's like the entire world suddenly turned its eyes toward Abuja again. The question now is, what happens next? Will the government make any move, or will this just fade like the previous protests? Because from what we saw today, these supporters are not backing down anytime soon. After the protest in Abuja started making waves online, reports began coming in that some political figures were quietly reaching out to calm the situation. They didn't want things to get out of hand, especially with the world watching. You know, Abuja, once news breaks there, every embassy, every media outlet starts paying attention. So while police were on the ground managing the crowd, politicians and lawyers were in closed-door meetings trying to control the narrative. Some members of Nnamdi Kanu's legal team released brief statements through the media. They insisted that Kanu deserves a fair trial and should be granted bail immediately, considering how long he's been in detention. They said the law must be applied equally to everyone, whether ordinary or famous. The argument is simple. You can't detain someone indefinitely without conclusion. And honestly, that's a point many Nigerians agree with, even those who don't necessarily support IPOB. Around the same time, human rights organizations started issuing statements too. Groups like Amnesty International and CIRAP called on the government to respect freedom of expression and the right to peaceful assembly. They condemned the use of tear gas and arrests during what they described as a largely peaceful protest. And as soon as those statements dropped, they gave the movement even more attention. Now, some sources claim that over 40 protesters were detained briefly, though police haven't confirmed exact numbers yet. The force public relations officer reportedly said they are not against peaceful protests, but that they won't allow what could threaten national security. The government's position, as always, is that IPOB remains a proscribed group and that its activities are unlawful. But supporters are countering that this was not an IPOB protest. They say it was simply a public demand for justice. This argument on whether it's an IPOB activity or a citizens' movement is a major point of contention, because that's what determines how authorities treat it. If it's seen as an IPOB action, security agencies will treat it as a threat. But if it's seen as an ordinary civil protest, then it becomes a question of rights. And that's exactly what makes this moment delicate. Now, let me tell you the part that's really interesting. A few lawmakers from the Southeast quietly hinted that they might take the matter to the floor of the National Assembly again. They said the constant protests are a sign that something needs to change. Some of them even suggested a political solution, meaning maybe an out-of-court settlement or government pardon instead of endless court sessions. But as expected, not everyone in government supports that idea. Some top officials argue that letting him go could embolden others with similar ambitions. Meanwhile, back on social media, emotions are running high. Many young Nigerians are sharing old clips of Nnamdi Kanu, speaking about freedom, marginalization, and leadership. They're posting them with captions like, "He was right," or "This is why they fear his voice." And on the other side, critics are warning that pushing this too far could destabilize the country. It's like a digital war of words. hashtags versus government press releases. While all this is happening, everyday people in Abuja are just trying to live their lives amid detention. Some shop owners said business was slow because of road closures. Commuters complained that taxis doubled their fares because routes were blocked. Even small vendors around Woos Market said they had to pack up early. So this protest didn't just make noise, it affected the rhythm of the city itself. Now the real twist is this. There are reports that similar protests might soon happen in Enugu, Aba, and Onitsha. Supporters in those states have already started holding candlelight prayers and solidarity walks. If those protests actually happen, then this Abuja one was just the beginning. And you know what that means? The pressure on the government will only increase. Before I continue with what's expected to happen next week and the kind of reactions that might shake the political scene, please take a second. Hit that like button if you're still with me and subscribe to the channel so you'll get notified when the next part drops. I promise you, what's coming next will surprise you.